Today we are going to make ricotta. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. We have all the things we need to get started. So we have our milk, cream, our vinegar, and our salt. We also have some cheesecloth that we'll use a little bit later to do the straining. So to get started, all we're going to do is add each of these ingredients to our pot. That is whole milk that we're using. And then we have heavy cream. Vinegar, that's going to help with the curdling. And I use just regular distilled vinegar. And then salt. This is 5 grams, which is about 2 teaspoons. That's all in there. So we're going to give that a stir to combine. We will go ahead and get that over a very low flame, as low as you can get your heat. The ricotta will typically, for this amount, it could take up to an hour even for all the curdling to happen. If the heat's too high, the bottom will scorch and you'll get burnt cheese, which is no good. So we'll go ahead and get this started, and then we'll take a look at it in a few minutes. So we have our ricotta over a very low flame, pretty much as low as you can get it. And it's going to take, like I said, it could take up to an hour for the ricotta to curdle all the way. And so I'm going to be setting my timer for between 8 and 10 minutes, just to remind me to come back and stir it. So this is something you can get started and then be working on something else. You want to keep an eye on it, every so often. So we will come back and give this a stir in about 8 minutes, and then we'll see how it's looking. Okay, our ricotta's been cooking now for about 10 minutes. And actually, we're starting to see some curdling. So I don't know if you can notice that. You're starting to see some buildup on the spatula, and you're starting to see some separation in the pot. And so we're going to stir this pretty well, not vigorously. We don't want to break up the curd, but I definitely want to I want to get that flat part of the spatula on the bottom of the pan everywhere to make sure there's nothing sticking. So I'm going to do that all the way around, make sure that there's nothing sticking. You'll be able to feel it if you come across spots where maybe the milk's starting to stick to the bottom. So we want to make sure that's all cleared up. And then we are going to let that continue to cook. We'll check this now again in probably about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, it's been another few minutes. We're starting to get a little bit of simmering. We want to be careful of that. We don't want it to get too hot. And if it starts to simmer too much, we could break some of the curd and burn potentially. We can see that we're seeing definite separation in terms of the curd, but we're not seeing it get kind of big yet in terms of like the size of the curd. So it's still kind of small. And so we need to give it more time for that curd to firm up a little bit. And we're trying to find the sweet spot between getting the most yield of the curd from the milk and cream that we have in there, but not cooking it so much that the curd gets really tight and dries out. So we will try to strike that balance. But this is we're gonna let this go for another couple minutes. And at this point, we don't want to stir it quite as much. I'm gonna give it one last stir on the bottom to make sure nothing's sticking. But we want to give it a chance for the curd to really set up and create almost a raft on top. So we're gonna let this kind of do its thing. We'll watch the simmering and turn the heat down so it doesn't do that. And we'll check it again in a couple minutes. All right, it's been about 4 more minutes. We're starting to see a little bit of a rafting developing, meaning that it feels like there's like one solid mass of cheese starting to develop on the top. You can kind of see it building up here, and we're not there yet, but that's a good sign. That's a good sign that we're starting to get the curd. It's starting to firm up. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing. We're gonna let it tighten up a little bit more. We'll come back and check on it in just a minute. All right, it's been cooking for a few more minutes. And again, we're starting to see that curd thicken up, which is a great sign. We also are starting to see, I want to show you a little bit. So we're starting to see that curd. See, it's starting to get even bigger and a little bit more solidified, but it's not there yet. So it's still a little bit too soft. Right now, it almost looks like a not quite cooked egg white in a way, that same consistency. So that's not quite where we want it. We're gonna let it go a few more minutes. We'll check on it again. All right, it's been going for quite a few more minutes now, probably about another 10 minutes. We're starting to see bigger curds, and you can see it's starting to get a little bit thicker. So we are going to go ahead and pull that and put it in our cheesecloth, and I'll show you how to do that. So we have our curd ready to go. We're going to strain it out, and I have here just a regular strainer over a bowl so that it can let some of the whey drip through, the liquid drip through. Excuse me. And I have here also cheesecloth. This is a reusable one that I've gotten just off Amazon. I can put a link to it for you, but that allows you to just use it multiple times. And we're going to actually double it up. That'll catch a little bit more whey. It may take a little more time to get through, which is okay. And we're going to be just gently, because it's a smaller amount, we can just gently pour it through. And then I'm going to just go and scrape all of that remaining curd that's in the pot. And then we are just going to let this sit for as long as it takes for the curd. You'll see the curd will start to, a lot of that liquid will start to pass through. Occasionally we'll come back and give it a little stir. Sometimes the whey sticks to the cheesecloth, so we have to kind of loosen it up a little bit. And we'll give that a little bit of time, and we'll check on that a little bit later. The ricotta's been sitting in the cheesecloth and strainer for a little while now, and as you can see, it's already starting to firm up. We're starting to see it peel away. That's just a result of some of that moisture of the whey coming through. We're gonna let it strain just a touch more. Again, we're trying to find the balance of having the right amount of moisture in the ricotta, but we don't want it to be runny as well. We want it to be kind of somewhat firm. So we are going to let that sit for probably another 15 or 20 minutes. Give that a little more stir. And then we'll come back and look at it and see if it's ready to put in our container. Okay, our ricotta's been sitting a little longer. We're starting to see really nice texture. Looks great. I feel like there's enough moisture out. If you feel like you've gone over and there's too much moisture gone, you can always add back a little bit of so we have all the whey that's dripped through. We can always add some of that back. So the last step is for us to get it into our container. So I like to use a glove if you have some. You don't have to if you don't, that's okay. It helps sometimes if the cheese is a little warm. So we kind of gently get this bunched up. It's gonna make a little bit of a mess usually, and I'll go right into the container. And then this is partly why I like the glove, then I can kind of use this to just squeeze out any cheese that's left in the cheesecloth. I'm gonna get all of that out of there. And like I said, this cheesecloth is reusable, so I will just rinse it in the sink under hot water, and then I just wash it with my rags, kitchen rags, when it's time to wash. Okay, so there's our ricotta. So it will set up, as it sits in the fridge, it will get a little firmer, and then once it's ready, you are good to go.